Hello and welcome to this week's angling vlog. This week you join me out on the bank on a rare day off work and we're finally in search of pike. So you do join me today on the banks of the canal. You can see behind me there's a tinge of colour in the water, and after the recent storms there's plenty of debris in the water as well. It does seem like it's been an age since we've been out for pike. We've had one or two on the ribble like you can see on screen now, where we put a rod out when they've turned up. We've had some beautiful pike doing that. So I do apologise to you lads who've been waiting for some piking on the channel. Sometimes life just gets in the way and makes it difficult. When your boss in work is telling you you've got to take your leave before it runs out, you know you've not had much time off. So today you do join me on a rare day off work. Before we do get into the video, I just want to say a huge thank you to everybody that subscribes to the channel, leaves the comments down below and enjoys the videos every Friday. Your support really is appreciated and thank you all very much. So conditions today are really good for pike. There's a bit of colour in the water that's going to give them that confidence, and also we're in a shaded area, so the clear skies that are due today shouldn't really affect us too much. The first thing I've done when I've arrived on the venue is get the rods in the water. That early morning bit of the session really is a good time to get a bite, and that time between 7:30 and 9 o'clock is a good time for pike. You can see behind me here one of the rods is already in, so what we'll do now is we'll take a look at the setup, the swim, and how we're going to approach it. The skies are going to be clear today. It's going to get up to around 5-6 degrees, so it's not going to be too warm. You can see we've got one of the rods over there on a pencil against the far bank. That, in my mind, is I'm setting a trap. Anything that's moving along that back wall around this cover, we're covered in. The other rod might shock one or two people. We've literally got it right there. I'm just as confident about that rod as I am for the one on the far bank. So anything coming down this margin, I'm going to pick up as well. I'm going to sit back, chill out. Like I said at the start, been some busy times in work. I've got projects in work and my little lad's playing rugby now on a Sunday. So I can't get out on a Sunday as easy. So I really have been looking forward today to getting out on the bank for pike. And one thing I do love about this time of morning, you get the odd bang of a car, but it's just the bird life and the world coming alive. So if you just let the camera go quiet for a moment, you'll see what I mean. The rods are out and all you can hear is that bird song. It truly is a beautiful time to be on the bank. So you can just see there how muddy the banks are, and that's probably what gives the water a lot of colour all year round as well. When it's raining it's all washing in, isn't it? And there's probably a lot of leaves covering the bottom as well. Now a little tip when there's plenty of debris in the water is just to put your rod at an angle like that, and then the tip under the water. The braid then will go from the rod tip all the way out to your float. Even if it's floating braid, because that's £60 floating braid I've got on there from Fox. But putting the rod under the water, my line is going underneath all that rubbish in the middle now. It's going to catch round here, and there might be the odd bit by your float that'll catch. But in general, it's a good little tip. The thing that does as well is any dog walkers or bikers can clearly see your rod. Because believe you me, if I've learned anything, none of them cared about your fishing tackle, so you can't really miss a big rod tip in the air. So having a look over the baits that we've got with us today, and thank you again to Devon Baits for supporting the channel. We've got some sardines and mackerel. They're going to go with the smell and obviously the coloured water for the pike sniffing out a bait. Really good smelly baits, but keeping it simple by just having two with me. You can overcomplicate it at times, I think, so I always try and keep it simple. That's for smell. The water was a bit clearer, got a bit more visual. This bait here is a smelt and is my all-time favourite bait for pike. Seems to work no matter where I go. And I would use that today because it has got a different smell and pike will sniff it out, but also it's a smaller bait. So there's a lot of small fish in this area. It's going to replicate that as well. And then I've got a natural bait there in a roach. You know, if there is a bit more clarity, at the moment there's only about a trace depth, so about a foot and a half maybe visibility. So you never really know what you're coming to, and sometimes you have to change venue on the way there as well. And we're about half an hour in, and you always expect them floats to go, don't you? This spot though can be quite challenging on the mind. You don't see any fish top, any silvers to go on. You very rarely see a pike move, and it can be quite challenging on the head because there isn't any signs of fish at all, and that's normal for this area. But believe you me, I know Mr. Pike is down there, and you've just got to remain confident, and sometimes confidence comes from time on the bank. But this spot for somebody new could be quite challenging because you don't have any signs to really go on. You can see there, plenty of silvers in this area, but there's not a fish topping or a ripple from anything moving. So as you can see on screen now, we've just had the first boat of the day through, and I really don't mind these boats because as you can see, it's just mixed up the water a bit, put a bit of colour on. But I have to say, they are one of the reasons that I don't enjoy as much coming the canal as a lake. On a lake, I like to cast in, sit back, chill out. You haven't got to worry about boats and the rods. You can just sit back, put on the alarms sometimes and just chill out. On the canal, you've always got to kind of be listening out for that engine. You can see the sun just coming through the trees there now, and it is a bit of a quiet start, but I say it's good to be back on the bank. There is a nip in the air, and hopefully that boat is going to stir it up a bit, move the fish about a bit. So the rod on the inside has just started moving away. Just moved it back a bit up the bank, and it hasn't taken too long to go. So that hasn't taken too long to go after moving the rod. And you can see down here there's a lot of debris. I literally just moved the rod maybe 5 yards further down the bank. So it being sat there for about an hour. And whether or not just moving that little bit has made a difference, I don't know. But I guess in fishing we'll never understand pike, will we? But good to get a run. And again, move that rod on the far bank along. But ultimate confidence in a fish a foot from the bank. And there we go, we've been fishing maybe 2 hours. We moved that rod just up the bank a little bit, and within 10 seconds, 20 seconds, it was gone. This area of the canal was always famous for two different types of pike. One like this one that's a bit like a tiger with lemon spots all the way down, and others that are like your normal green and olive pike. But this is a beautiful pike in excellent condition. And before we let her go, we'll have a look at that excellent condition she's in. You can see there, been feeding well, and then beautiful colours. Let's get her back in the margin to rest and get her back. We'll quickly go over the setup while the rod's out the water, and it really is super simple. The hardware is my 12 foot, 3.25 pound test curve Fox Predator rod, Elite Deadbait. I've got a Corum Zelos reel there with 60 pound braid. So the first thing I've got is 2 float stops, and I've got a bead at the top to buffer the float. The float that I'm using today is a deadbait pencil. The next thing I've got is a quick change sinker, and that's 25 gram, and you'll set the depth for your swim by that sitting on the bottom, and you want the float just sitting on the top of the water, and that way as soon as the pike moves off, you get an indication straight away. The next thing I've got is a quick change swivel, and that allows me to leave the rod set up so I can get on the bank nice and quickly, but also when I'm unhooking a pike, I can just take the trace away and deal with the pike and the trace at the same time and get the rod out of the equation. The last part is my homemade wire trace, 18 to 20 inches long, down to 2 trebles and the bait. And that's going to sit on the bottom there like that. The pike moves away and you get the indication. Super simple setup that's caught me loads of pike on the canal. And as always on the channel, always important to give the pike a good rest. That pike there has been down there while I've been sorting a new bait out, and the rod's back out. You see it's more than ready to go. There we go. So they should all go back nice and safe. So the rods are back out, and the confidence that I have in that inside line, I've decided to put the other rod down that inside line as well, just to see if there's anything to the right of the swim. So we've got no rods at all now over the other side, and we've got the other rod back down the margin as well. This inside line here is a line on all canals that I've had good success on. Don't get me wrong, when it's gin clear, like some of the canals of fish, it's a first thing in the morning thing when it's dark. And the theory behind that for me is fish don't know what side of the canal they're on. They naturally migrate to the other side because of noise, whether that's people walking, dogs, cars, etc. But a pike, when it's moving along either feature, doesn't know what side of the canal it's on, especially when it's coloured. So pike coming along here or along there, I think you've got just as much chance down here as you have over there. So just slowly working them rods a bit further away. You can see now we've moved that rod a bit further up the canal, and that's probably the distance I moved it last time when we got a take. We have only got till about maybe 3 o'clock today. We've got to do the school run. What we'll do is explore the inside margin a little bit, and we'll begin to explore some of that margin over there as well. 2 things with fishing I think you've always got to do. Number 1, have a plan, and number 2, kind of leave knowing you've done everything you could. So by the time we leave, we'll have explored both sides of the canal across this whole area here. So one thing that does shock me in life is how quickly the sessions on the bank do pass you by. It only seems like a moment ago this morning we were casting in and hoping to get a pike. We've managed to do that, so I'm super happy, and I'm leaving the bank now to pick up the little man from school, a happy angler. It really does feel great to be back out for pike, and I've got some leave coming up next month, so I can't wait to get back out on the bank. Like all anglers, I'm going to give the rods to the last possible moment to reel them in, and all that remains is for me to thank you all very much for the support you show the channel. Tight lines in your own fishing, and we'll catch you all next week. Tight lines.